Good morning again. This is Mr. Johnson. I want to speak to you as briefly as I can about Confucius and his background. In our our timeline review a few minutes ago, talked about how Confucius comes to us from 550 BCE, about 2,500 years ago, he was born. And I don't know if you think it's a little bit strange to feel connected to somebody that was born that long ago. But there are a number of reasons why I really do feel a kind of a strange historical attraction to Confucius and his ideas. I kind of want to give you guys a little bit of background today on that, and maybe once we come back to it, I want to give you a little historical background, and then just come back to maybe the reasons why I say I feel such that connected. I want to share with you some details about Confucius right now. Call him Master Kuong. He stands out as the most significant figure in Chinese history. His early years were rather uneventful and ordinary. His father died when he was only 3. As a result, he was raised by his mother and had to experience poverty and hardship. However, when he was 15, he set his mind to becoming a scholar. He wanted to learn. When he got married, he embarked on an official career with the hope of putting his ideas into practice. He was appointed the chief of police in the Department of Justice of Lu. After a short time, though, he resigned from his positions and devoted himself to teaching. Accompanied by some of his students, Confucius spent a number of years traveling throughout China, hoping to share his ideas with the local rulers who might hire him and implement his political ideas. However, he was rejected by one after another. Eventually, he gave up hope of getting a desirable political post and returned to the state of Lu and resigned himself to the position of an educator and teacher. He also spent the remaining years of his life editing what have come to be known as the Confucian classics, including books like the Book of Poetry, the Book of History, and the Yi Ching, the Book of Changes. Although Confucius failed in his pursuit of a political career, his career as an educator and teacher was a tremendous success. People were impressed by his integrity, honesty, and particularly his pleasant personality, his enthusiasm as a teacher. 3,000 people came to study under him, and over 70 became well-established scholars. His followers, one generation after another, spread his ideas throughout the country of China. Eventually, his ideas won the approval as national ideology in the 2nd century AD. So this, you guys, now we're talking about the Common Era. So 200 years into the Common Era, 700 years after he's born, his ideas become the national ideology of China during the Han Dynasty. And you already have a reading about the Han Dynasty in your material. So we're placing now the adoption of Confucius ideas into the Han Dynasty. He became honored as, quote, the ultimate sage teacher. His philosophic ideas have been taught to not only traditionally educated Chinese, but also to students in other Asian countries such as Japan, Korea, and Singapore. All right, that's some background. Confucius led an amazingly influential and powerful life. And I mentioned before that I feel somewhat a connection to Confucius. The context of his leadership came from the fact that China was a very tribal place, a very violent place. People were not acting generally in a way that Confucius felt was satisfying from the standpoint of human beings. I think I resonate with Confucius so much because I think he was a humanist. I think that he really believed in putting human beings first and in establishing a caring and loving society. And so he was this whole idea of Ren has to do with being the best kind of human you can be. What's the best we can be for each other, and what kind of people can we be in order to establish a harmony in society, and to have peace prevail in our society, and peace and order and respect and dignity and all those beautiful things about human life. Civility. How can we treat ourselves in public and with respect and true care? How can we treat the elderly among us, our families? And I think a lot of you guys will resonate with that. Confucius, I don't think that Confucius accepted any of the ancient gods of China. None of the ancient religions was he identified with. He was simply a person who loved humanity. He loved human beings. He wanted to see people become as fully human as they could be, and in their interactions, they could build a society where people could know what their roles were, know how to support each other, and build something very positive. He believed in the power of education above all, the power that education has to transform the perspective of an individual and lead to a more meaningful and satisfying life, more meaningful and satisfying relationships. He believed that in the family, we learn how to value each other properly so that when we go out into the community, um, we can treat each other in the same way that we might have treated our grandmother or our grandfather or our brother or our sister. And if we learn how to properly order these relationships, then this will lead us ultimately to a more orderly society. So I hope I have given you a little bit of a sense of who Confucius was, what his life was like, what some of his major ideas are. Please review the notes I left on Confucius. We'll continue to study him and come back to that. But I think Confucius is a great place for us to have started this look at Far East and China. So I'm going to end this right now. I'll be posting a Google Meet later on for us to discuss this and other things, and also to help us find a way to finish up this Neolithic Revolution Unit 1 as we move into Unit 2. Thanks to you guys. Thanks for watching.